Oh, the screen resolution's wrong. Gotta fix that. Whee! All right. I can barely see it. I buy all these monitors and then can't see what's on them. Getting progressively more blind. So, hello, the internet. Welcome to my live stream for no reason. No, there is a reason, and it's because I've started this new Max for Life project, which is probably going to be the sequel to Nedit. Nedit 2. Nedit 2 Judgment Day, perhaps. Or Nedit Returns. Or The Nedit Strikes Back. Or something. Back to the Nedit 2. So I started this about a week ago after tinkering with a new idea for a sort of playback engine for the best part of, well, it's actually been years. But I thought that I would put something together and share it to Patreon. So my patrons have been having a lovely time with it, sending me clips, and every time I click away from the window, it disappears. This is my first ever floating window, and I don't know how it works. I stole a bit of code from the Max forum, and it's just, this is very, very much a work in progress. This is very much a kind of development vlog live stream series. I need to make some arrangements here on my second screen. I don't need to see OBS. Let's turn that off. Okay. Oh, come on, YouTube. Okay. Say hello in the chat, people. Did I turn chat on? Maybe I didn't. I can't see chat. I thought I turned it on. Damn. Why can't I see chat? Oh, live chat. There we go. I see the chat now. Hi. Hi, chat. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so welcome to Nedit 2, the return of the king. Actually, Return of the King was the third one, wasn't it? Anyway, so this is a sample slicer, chopper, sequencer, concept, proof of concept, which I'm very determined to turn into something fairly substantial in terms of what you can do with it. Currently, it's really only one instance of what it is, but I have aspirations to have like 8 tracks of it in one device. If I can make the UI look nice. Currently, the UI looks fucking shit. And I've actually had to upscale my monitor to something like 3 times so that I can see this god-awful. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. It seemed like a good idea, but then things are good ideas when you're zoomed in 200% on your screen. And then when you zoom out to 100%, you're like, I can't see anything. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. Nedit is an 8-slot sample, slicer, chopper, wrangler, I was going to say, remixer, mangler, sound enhancer, sound destroyer, and a journey into the unexpected and what exists between the sounds, at least, if that didn't sound wildly pretentious. I'm trying some things that I've never done before, like a MIDI triggered preset storage system. So I'm triggering my MIDI keyboard, and you can see down here that I'm triggering notes. And the idea is that hopefully you'll be able to recall presets by triggering MIDI. I'm using multiple sequences at once that can run at all different rates. Currently, they sort of run at rates of 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, whatever. But I will look at ways to maybe have them go slightly off kilter and weird time signatures and stuff like that. It's very, very much designed for chopping up loops, existing loops that are very quantized and on the grid. So if you load in something that is not quantized and isn't cropped properly, it's going to sound awful. However, I have put in a one-shot mode for all of the slots where you can kind of play. It doesn't play as a one-shot. It still plays as a loop, but you've kind of got a little bit of freedom over, like it doesn't have to sync to the tempo. But I was kind of thinking that it sucks and that I might just maybe build a drum machine, and then you could have like another tab where, so you would have a tab for the looper and then you'd have another tab for the drum machine, and that would be on the 8 tracks. So you'd have like 8 tracks, and then within one of those 8 tracks, you could choose between a handful of different types of things. Maybe a drum machine. But right now it's in the sample chopper phase. So let's put some samples in it now. So one thing I'm quite excited about is, let's start with some breaks. So you can obviously drag breaks in from the browser into one of these slots here. But I've started exploring this chooser. This is a Mac's thing called the chooser, where you can like drop stuff in here, browse it, and then drag it to somewhere else in the patch. So I'm going to sort of select all of these. I've got these like drum breaks here that I made. I'm going to drag them into the chooser, and then they're here. Now I can't like navigate that, and it shows the whole file path, which is kind of shit. But I can preview them. From inside this little chooser, which is pretty cool. And then when I find one that I like, I can drag it from the chooser into one of these slots. So now that is loaded into slot number 1. Who's Duncan Wilson? You will never, ever. How dare you? How dare you discuss? How dare you ask these questions? How dare you? Put me right off. I was in my flow. I'm going to have to drink a beer. Duncan Wilson is the person I rent this computer off. What the fuck was I? Right. So yeah. So I've loaded a slot. I've loaded a sample from the browser, the chooser, into slot 1. So let's have a little look. Oh, you have to kind of double click everything because this is a floating window. It's not. Darren at Isotonic was telling me that he might be able to make something for me where we can resize it by clicking and dragging. Which I'm excited about. So we've now got a sample in slot 1. It is a loop. So I'm going to tell Nedit that it's a loop, and I'm going to tell it that it is 1 bar long, loop length in bars. That's very important. There's a tiny oh, fuck off, OneDrive. Now, not now. Oh my God. That's intrusive. There's a tiny little fade in and fade out, which has taken me such a long time to try and implement, and it still sounds god awful. I don't want to use a Hanning window, and I don't want to use a ham window. So what I've been doing is shaping the ramp that is currently being used to index the sample and somehow turn it into kind of like a super squashed or well, not squashed actually, more kind of like clipped kind of cosine. It's just really hard. But anyway, so what I've done is I've used a trapezoid to dip the amplitude when the phase starts and ends. So there's like this tiny little envelope here. You can have a fade in of 0.1 and a fade out of between 0.8 and 0.9. Roughly the default settings should sound okay. So let's move on to this green bit over here. This is the sample slot sequencer. So every slot that you load in here, 1 to 8, is actually addressed in each row of this sequencer here. They're color coded in green. Hopefully that'll help. So we're only using slot 1 at the moment. So I might actually go to the steps and just draw in all of slot 1. And then when I start the sequencer, it's, my God, it works. It actually works. Right, but what's going on? Okay, so let me do some stuff here. Let's reset all the constraints on these sequences. Edit constraints, reset, yeah, okay, edit steps. Okay, so let's work out what's going on. Right. Okay. So that's playing. The loop in slot 1 is playing according to this green sequencer. As we move down, the kind of salmon colored sequencer, this is the slice start. Excuse me. So when you dial this dial here, you choose how many slices you want to slice, all of the slots. I did look at having slices per slot. It's too much work. So currently there's just like a global slice for all of the slots. So I've now told that all of the slots to slice 16 times. So now what's basically happening is that it's playing slot number 1, playing it at the start and playing it for the entirety of its slice length. And then at full volume. And that's kind of what it sounds like. And if we change the tempo, then they're synced to the tempo. Now, if I maybe go to here, now we're playing from a little bit further on. So if I did something like this, we're playing from we're playing between slice number 4 and slice number 6. Oh, those pops are they're going to keep me awake. Just try and ignore the pops, people. Put a little low pass filter on this live stream. It'll take the pops out. I do love the salmon. I do. Salmon and tungsten. That's my max for live color scheme. Anything looks good with grey. Even turquoise. Look at turquoise and grey. It's so satisfying. Okay. So, okay. What am I doing? Okay. So each sequencer has, a collection of very similar controls for what you can do. You can set the rate of the sequencer in bars. So now that first sequencer is advancing for 1 bar, getting from start to finish over 1 bar. Can go for 2 bars, so that's a 2-bar cycle. 4 bars, 8 bars, 16 bars, 32 bars, 64 bars, 128 bars it'll take to get through that sequence. I find that incredibly satisfying. Underneath that, there's how many columns there are in the sequencer, or steps, I guess, but I've called it columns because it's easier to track the code. So you can have, currently they're all in sort of multiples of 2. So you can have 2 steps, 4 steps, 8 steps, 16 steps. I'm going to try and work it out so that you could have 12 if you want, or 13, and it will somehow still all sync up polyrhythmic and polymetric sequences. Then we've got whether we just want the sequencer to loop or whether it will randomize on loop. So if we set this to, say, 16 with a rate of 1 bar, when it gets to the end of the bar, it will randomize. You can't hear anything right now because I haven't got anything loaded in the slots. So, and if I put that to loop, it'll just loop whatever's currently there. I can randomize that if I want, or I can reset that, but that's not really doing anything. And then we've got edit steps and edit constraints. So edit constraints is something I try to add this week, which is kind of interesting because a lot of these sequences are kind of quite predefined. So this sequencer, for example, has to have 8 rows because there are 8 slots, and it's used to index whichever slot is going to be triggered or, played, faded in, whatever. So if you've got like loads of slots loaded and you want to make a pattern, but say you don't want slot 3 to be included when randomized, you can take them all out. And then when you go to edit steps, if you randomize that, it won't randomize anything on that row, which I think is pretty cool. I'm quite satisfied with that. Although doing this is a little bit, I've got a few ideas for things that I'd like to add. And then also, if we go back to edit steps, there's this little sort of, what's happened here? Why hasn't that worked? Let's reset. It's because I need to define how many, no. Damn it. Okay, there's a bug there. Is it like that on all of them? No, it's like that on that one and that one. and that one, but not that one. Okay, all right, fine. So let's just stick it to 8. So down the side, there are like these little sort of solo buttons. And then what you can do is you can click that button and it will highlight everything in that row. So if you only want to have slot 3, then you can just click that button there. And I wanted to have one for the constraints as well, but that's taking a little bit of time. I don't even really know if I want to use live.grid yet. It's really handy and really quick to customize, but it's also quite limited. So yeah, you can kind of like click and drag here and say, I just want that row. I just want that sample and I just want that start position and I want this retrigger or slice length and I want that effect. So that's pretty neat, I think. And then it's the same for all of them. So let's move on to the slice sequencer. Let's put it back to slot 1. Put it to this effect here. Okay, what's happened there then? Let's put this back to slice 1. And we're currently re-triggering it at 16th notes. Let's go down to the bottom row. Okay, I don't think... Okay, I'm going to put this to 8 slices. It's a bit easier to manage. Okay, so if I stop the transport and restart it, it's just going to play the loop normally. There we go. So the pink bit, the salmon bit, is the sample offset. There we go. So if we have that going for quite a long time, like 8 bars, it's just a standard sort of changing the start position. If we have it going like... So that sounds a little bit more cyclical, as it were. But where it gets interesting is the combination between the 3 sequences, well, the 4 sequences. So there's a sequencer for slot, start position, the slice length of the current step. So even though that we've sliced it by 16 slices or 8 slices or whatever, you don't necessarily have to have a step play just an 8th note. It could play a 16th note on that step. And it could also do that for, an 1/8 of a bar or an 1/8 of 2 bars or an 1/8 of 4 bars or something like that. So it's not modular, but they are all sort of working independently of each other. And when you start to experiment with offsetting and dividing the sequences, then you can come up with these really interesting patterns without really doing anything, because it's just the way that they kind of combine together. So if we think about that right now, let's find a... Okay. Where's the snare? Let's see if I can find the snare. Okay, there's the snare. Already I'm lost. Kind of what I had just then. Let's just hit random. All right, let's move on to the purple, the lavender sequencer. So I'm considering maybe not having this linked to the slices, but currently the salmon and the lavender are linked to the same slice dial, but I might change that. So this is the slice length or re-trigger. So you can program in how you want a slice to loop or be re-triggered per step. So originally it was like this was a 16th note, this was an 8th note, this was a dotted 8th note, whatever. But what I've added in is this little thing down the side so that you can actually say, I want row 1 to be 8 slices long. So if I program in all of that row, every single time it goes to that step, it's going to be an 8th. Well, no, it's going to be 8 slices. So you slice it, and then the slice length multiplies those slices. So if we slice the loop by 8 and then multiply it by 8, it's going to play all the way through. Although it won't sound like that because we're offsetting it around. So if I just put that all the way down there like that, that's going to play normal. If I put it there, it's going to play from halfway. So what you can do is you can essentially customize what each step does, what event it is, how long the length is, how long the slice is. And you do that with this little thing down here. It's really hard to see, but if you kind of look at these numbers here, that kind of tells you what step that is. So for that row, I can say I want it to be eighth notes. Let's go from top to bottom. So the top row, I say I want that to be 1 slice. The second row, I'm going to say I want to be 2 slices. The third, I want to be 3 slices. The fourth, 4 slices. The fifth, let's say 6 slices. And then the seventh can be 8. And this is kind of where it's like, well, I've used them all up now, so there's not really any point. So actually what I could do is say, I don't need those 2 rows. So let's add the constraints and just take those out. And then I only want to work with these slices. So if I trigger in, put those all in, they're all going to be 16th or 8th notes, actually. Maybe this would work better if we slice into 16th. No. What happened there? Oh, there we go. Oh, I need to tell it to update that table. Okay, let's do that again. This is going to be fiddly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 16. And then again, I'm going to say I don't want to use any of these ones here because there's just no point. So I'll take them out. Not too sure about this yet, but it kind of... Okay, that's all 16th notes. That's all 8th notes. And if we slow the sequences down, we can give them a little bit more time to hear what they're doing. So now we're in, that's dotted 8th notes or 3 16th notes, I think. And then that's quarter notes, I think. And then that is 10 16th notes. I can't remember. I've lost track now. Okay, anyway, let's hit random. So every time that it goes to that step, it's going to play a multiplication of the slices. So we take the sample, we slice it, and then we use the slice length sequencer to play multiples of that slice. So if we slice it 16 times, we can say play one of those 16th slices 3 times, like for three times as long. I basically stole the idea from the Octatrack, pretty much. It's basically how the Octatrack works. So we're not slicing by transients or anything like that. We're like dead cutting samples into equal measures. Hi, Human Synthetics. How are you doing? Oh, there's people in the chat. I'm not just talking to myself. Oh, if I click away, then Nedit disappears. Okay. So let's add some more samples. So I've already pulled 8 samples into my little pool here. So I'll just drag them all into slot 2, one into slot 3, one into slot 4, slot 5, 8. And then now we can randomize the sequencer and then it will jump between all the different slots. So now we're in breakcore territory, or not necessarily, depends what you put in. Let's go a little bit faster. Okay, let's randomize the start positions. Okay, so this is when the constraints can get quite useful, because I've been chopping up breaks for a long time, and I'm always torn between using 16th notes or 8th notes when you slice it, or slicing one bar 16 times or 8 times or whatever. Because when you get into kind of generative stuff, you can sometimes jump to a 2nd or 3rd 16th note and it sounds shit. Like I might want 16th notes because I want like 16th note transients, but I want to work in 8th notes. So that's when the constraints can come in quite handy. So on the slices, I can edit constraints and I can say, I don't want, it's very fiddly. I'm going to make it easier to use. So I can actually effectively still slice into 8th notes, even though that I've sliced into 16th notes. So I can get all of the slice divisions of slicing in 16th notes, but jump around the loop in 8th notes by just adding these constraints. So This is not a particularly nice process at the moment. I'm going to add some buttons in. So now that, like, even though I've got all of these 16th note divisions and I've sliced the sample 16 times, I can jump around the start position in 8th notes by removing 16th notes I don't want. So effectively, I've got 8 start positions now. This should sound a little bit better when we kind of randomize it. Let's come out of constraints. And let's speed up the sequencer a little bit. Oh, it did a thing. Now would be a good time to insert ads. No! I'm not going to do that, YouTube. Leave me alone. So this, for me, is kind of quite exciting, and I'm absolutely hoping to put a button in that just says slice 16th notes but work in 8th notes or something, just to make it a little bit more quick. But you can also be quite particular and fussy if you want. So say, like, if you had, let's say, for example, on the, I really should resize it depending on the constraints or whatever. But let's say on the slice length sequencer, I could go into constraints and I could say, don't give me any 16th note slices for this part of the bar, but maybe give me some on the last 2 steps. That's kind of pretty good. So then if I go back to edit steps and I hit randomize, oh, wrong one, randomize, then it might randomize on the last 2 steps, but it won't randomize on any of the other ones. So I can kind of, a 16th note roll at the end of a sequence is quite satisfying, but you don't want it like at the beginning. I don't know. So this constraints thing I think is quite interesting. I'm quite into it. Let's have a listen to it. It's a little bit quiet. Let's turn it up. Buy Brill Cream. What's the Brill Cream bot doing in the chat? What, are you from 1956? Do people still buy Brill Cream? Brill Cream. Buy Quaker Oats. Drink Coke. So I got quite a satisfying pattern there. That's quite nice, but maybe I want to ruin it. So I'm going to turn random on loop on all of the sequences. Well, the top 3 anyway. And then you can see the constraints working. You'll see that, like, you know, like this one down here, we don't need any of those steps. And on the, the slice start sequencer, we don't want the offbeat 8th note or the offbeat 16th note. And here, for example, we've said we don't want any 16th note slice re-triggers, whatever, for the first 6 of the steps. So we can actually see that in action as it randomizes on a new path. Go up to 200 BPM, it's Saturday. This is a new version of Nedit, yes. I'm probably going to call it Nedit 2. Nedit 2 Judgment Day. Let's come back down to 130. Okay, good. All right. So a couple of other things as well is that the loop, the slot selection has this ramp time up here. So essentially all the samples, the first versions that I posted this week and last week were all just loading different samples into a single buffer. So it was effectively a mono, like a single voice. This is actually 8 buffers. So because we've got 8 buffers, we can crossfade between them in interesting ways, and we can do that in time to the sequencer. Well, kind of. So we can, with the ramp time, and there's one for down here as well. I'll get to that in a minute. For the ramp time, we can say, okay, we'll actually crossfade from one slot to the other every 8th note. And that can sound pretty weird and psychedelic. Actually, let's make it longer. Let's like say... Sounds cool. And we could have that like at any rate you want. You want it at 16th notes, have a 16th note crossfade, or you can have no ramp at all, but it's a bit clicky. I need to fix the clicks. Do it in time to the sequencer. I was thinking of having an option where the crossfade is the time of the current rate of the sequencer. So if the sequencer is taking 8 bars, if the sequencer is taking 4 bars to advance all the way through and it's 8 steps long, then each of those steps would be half a bar long. Can't do the maths right now. Been doing maths for all week. I'm sick of it. I'm going to play with this, drink a beer, and go and watch Star Wars. Okay, so you can hear how the samples are crossfading from one to the other according to this ramp time. So that's maybe a good segue into the ramp time on the bottom sequencer, which is kind of a placeholder at the moment. This is probably going to be where all the effects are, the modulation, the glitchy stuff. I wanted to kind of do all the glitchy time stretch, loopy stuff right on the actual buffers themselves, but it was too much for my brain. So what I'm going to do is basically stick Ned effects down here or something, and you'll be able to switch between various states. So currently at the bottom here, there are these volume effects and a couple of other things. So the bottom row is just the volume is up. The second row is the volume is down. It's silence. So you can basically say do nothing for that step. The third one is a ramp down, volume down. Fourth one is volume up. Fifth one, I think, is like a 16th note up and down, like a 16th note cut thing. Sixth one is like a dead stop. Oh yeah, I put those numbers in. It will sort of play a tiny little bit of the step and then silence. And then this is flanger down, this is flanger up. So let's actually listen to them. So that's volume up. That's volume down. Nothing. Silence. This is volume ramp down. So that's actually ramping the volume down. If we put these all to 16th notes, let's turn the constraints back on. And then just have all 16th notes. Let's match the sequencer. So it's not like an echo, it's like a sort of just fades the loop out, and then this one fades it back in. Oh, I've got random loop on. Let's put this back to 16th notes. Oh, I've got the ramp time on. Let's turn the ramp off. Let's set all the sequences to the same speed. There we go. So you can do these fade ins like that, and then these ones you can fade them out. Blue Monday. That's a 16th note. Then this just plays a little bit of it and then cuts it out. And you can kind of say, I want it to play like half of the step or an eighth of the step with this tiny number box down here. So that's actually going to play half of the step and then cut silent. And then, or we could go for like a 16th of the step and cut silent. Or we could say go for a 1/12 of the step and cut silent. So it's like a little gap. And then these are flanges. And then the wave of the flanger is matching the step rate. And then we've got like a minimum, a start time and an end time for the flanger. And then this is up. This is flanger up. So I'm going to put, these are just little placeholders. I'm going to put more of these things in later, other filters. I want to put reverb in, some delays and, you know, things, other things. Different sequences, like not necessarily a sequencer. Maybe it's just a load of dials. Or maybe there's like, I could switch off the MIDI. Oh, I didn't get to the MIDI preset thing yet. Maybe like each sort of element of the 4 sequences could occupy like a certain part of the keyboard. So rather than use the sequencer to jump to a start position, you can just press a key on the keyboard and it will jump to it. Probability, like the old Nedit. And I had this idea of just making like a little kind of modular environment for each sequencer where it's like, it's not steps, it's just waveforms. And you say, I want to assign a sine wave to the start position. And then it won't be beaty at all. It'll be kind of granular and probably terrible. I don't know. Let's listen to it do some stuff, random on loop on all of them with some ramp time in, say quarter notes on the slot selector and quarter notes on the effects. Actually, let's just random. Oh, I've got a random all button. Yeah, there's my random all button. Oh, it doesn't work for that one. Bollocks. Okay. Ha! Nothing. Okay, I don't want any flanges, so I'm going to take out the... Here's a good example of the constraints. I don't want the flanges, and I don't want the one that does silence, so I'm just going to remove them from the sequence. There we go. Oh, that was a nice sound. Ha! Oh, and the one that does the gap. I think it's that one. Let's take that one out as well. Let's have the sequences go a bit faster. Oh, wrong one. Okay. It's not an audio effect, it's an instrument, it's a MIDI instrument, which is why you can, you will hopefully be able to select presets via MIDI. Let's see if that works. Let's turn them all off, right, or turn the loop on so that, okay, I'm just going to press C. So I'm pressing note 72 here. I'm going to hit store, and then I'm going to just hit random a load of times. This may not work, but I don't care. It's early days. Let's just random all this stuff. And then hit note 73 and hit store. And then I'm going to toggle between... No, don't work. And I think I've broken it. Let's have a look at the storage window. Yeah, I don't know what this green column means. I went on the Max Discord. I wonder if anyone's replied. Oh, someone has replied. Let's have a look. Recall hashtag should highlight the hashtag column. Oh, All right, I'll get to that later. So, okay, the storage system doesn't work. Okay, let's close that. But it will work. So yeah, you'll be able to create patterns and then press a key on your MIDI keyboard, hit store, and then you'll be able to recall those patterns via MIDI. And maybe I'll put like a quantizer in so that it'll do it at the next bar or something. That I don't even know if I'm going to put it in. I just thought it might mean that you could maybe make a whole track with it. Like you could kind of use the storage system as like a playlist, and then you would just kind of, and then maybe you could make another sequencer that sequences the patter storage, and then you can play back the patterns and make a song. I don't know. A bit like Fruity Loops. It's a bit like what Fruity Loops was like back in the day. What else is there to... let's listen to it a little bit. Oh, have I broken it? I think I've broken it. That's all right. No. Yeah, that's it. I've crashed the stream. Hooray. Let's force quit live. Okay. See if we can get it going again. No, thank you. Okay, let's... no, thank you. I won't bother with that. Let's pull it back in. That's fine. We can just start from scratch. So it loads okay. You can close it here and then open it again. And no matter where you click in Ableton, it will still stay floating. That also needs some work. So I had like some... I made these like cheesy auto-tuney vocal samples earlier, which I was going to try do something with those. So I'm going to select... Oh, there we go. I'm going to drag them into the little pool here, and we can preview them there like that. I got some cheesy vocals from my folder, reversed them, and then ran them through Reason's Neptune, which is pretty cool auto-tune type thing. So I'm going to drag them. This bit is actually kind of sucks a bit. I don't know how I feel about this. But I'm going to drag them all in there like that. And they're all loops. That's fine. And they're all actually 2 bars long. So I'll just very quickly say you're all 2 bars long. Let's hit random all. Oh, we need to set some of this stuff. I'll just click and wibble. That one doesn't work. Let's do random on loop. See if it works. It's very slow. Let's go up to 120. Okay, I don't want the ones with the silence, and I don't want those flanger things. I think I don't want that one either. Okay. I wanted to hear what this sounded like with the ramps on, so I'm going to put the ramps on to like... Still a little bit clicky, damn it. Okay, well then let's see if we can use this. Let's do the fades on these. We can take some of those clicks out. That was actually... I kind of think this interface is awful. I'm going to get arthritis. I need to make it more... Oh, I don't know. It's a bit quiet. All right, let's turn random on loop off. Yeah. Let's say the ramp works better at slower speeds, I think. Okay, the moment of truth. Can I load another one in? Let's see if I can load in another instance. Oh. All right. Seems like we can. This is going to get very difficult to manage. Let's close that one and focus on this one. Where were those? Yeah, here we go. All right, let's put that in slot 1. So let's see if I can try and program in like a little drum fill. Yeah, there we go. It's pretty easy. All right, let's go back to this one. Open it. Hit random all. Let's go a bit faster. So yeah, that's actually kind of a 16th note pulse width chopper, which is quite nice. Could really... Ugh. So even though I'm using multiple instances right now, my hope was that actually you would have 8 instances in a single device, and then you just tab, like along the top here, there would be like track 1, track 2, and then there would be a second tab that would be, is it a looper? Is it a drum machine? Is it a synth? Is it a polysynth? Or, you know, what is it? And then you choose which one, and then it appears. I don't know what the CPU, what is the CPU like? 3%, but then I am on a pretty beefy Mac M1, beefy Mac M1, so it should be 3%. I can hit random and just generate a new pattern. But it's not just like random, like if it does something that you half like and you half don't like, then you can finesse the bit that you don't like, and then my goal is that you'll be able to store it as a preset. And then there's this read and write thing. So I think maybe, I don't know how pattern storage works with how it saves in live sets. It's very early days. You may not need a beefier PC. I'm going to try very hard to make this as lightweight as possible. I might even rebuild the whole thing in Gen. It's all currently in vanilla MSP at the moment. You're going to need a bigger boat. Someone actually got the quote right. Everyone says we're going to need a bigger boat. It's not. It's you're going to need a bigger boat. It's like, he doesn't say, Luke, I am your father. He says, no, I am your father. What's wrong with people? This isn't the kind of music I'd make. I just thought it might look like it might just sort of make for a good demo because you can kind of hear what's happening. You can hear how they're all cross-fading between all the... So actually, if I switch these to one shot now, if we actually just listen to slot number 1 and switch it to one shot, now that's kind of been detached from the transport. It's not like synced, so you can kind of transpose it how you want. It's still going to loop. It's not like triggered, like a triggered one shot. It's still like looping and still being affected by the chopping engine, but you've got a bit of freedom over. So you can kind of pitch it up 4 octaves or down 4 octaves. I need to sort those clicks out. Do you know how hard it is making a declicking algorithm? It's only on certain places. I think maybe what I need to do is I need to actually put a sample and I need to put a latch in. And I need a latch when an actual number addresses to a certain point in the phase, but it's updated exactly in time with when the phase is ramping with a division of the current ramp's phase. So if the ramp is phasing over the course of 1 bar, but it's sliced at 16th notes, it needs to receive that number on a 16th note according to that ramp. Perhaps with a sample and hold, or I'm thinking out loud. I would like to rebuild it in Gen, but I don't know how to make like transport synced ramps in Gen unless I use a ramp from the outside. Anyway. I wonder if I can drag a sound from that one to that one. Yeah, I can. That's funny. So I can drag a sound from one Nedit to another Nedit. That's kind of funny. This chooser thing is really, really, really good. And it won't just load like audio files. It'll load anything like movie files. If you're just working in Max standalone, it's pretty cool. The only thing I can't work out is that I can't get it to sort of just show the file name. It shows the entire file path. I'm sure there's a way, but like I tried to use strip path, but it won't actually, even though it will show just the file name, when you try and drag it, no, it would not. All right, let's put an aim and break in it and some sub bass shit. All right, let's, oh God, deleting them is kind of tricky. I've not really been a floating window person. I don't really like plugins. Don't really use VST plugins. There's like a couple that I like, but I just avoid them because I think the idea of, I've gotten used to this tab thing now, just tabs. But the thing is, when I try to do it in the vanilla Ableton view, it was so wide. And I kind of wanted everything to be there on the screen anyway. I'm not going to moan. Nothing grumble. Let's just crack on. So let's put an aim and break in there. On, where the hell is my, where is it? Oh. What the hell am I? Oh, here we go. No. What's happened to all my fucking, oh, here we go. Yeah. That one, let's put that in slot 1. Set these all to slot 1. Okay, it's 2 bars long. Let's go up to 175. Yeah, this thing is not great. I'm going to have to fix this. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 16. So, and then what I'm probably going to, so I'm probably going to add in like something like this into it as like an effects processor at the end. Not the, like these algorithms, not this like layout. These have got fades as well, which is kind of nice. You can have like these fades in. So this would be like a kind of effects processor bit that I'm going to put like down at the bottom or something. I don't like the fades. Don't want the fades right now. Some of these are... Yeah. That's some more breaks. Let's add some more samples in. Let's drag in... Oh my God, that's loud. My cue is really loud. It scared the shit out of me. Let's drag those in there and then we can add them to the slots. Sorry, earbuds. Earbuds crew. Didn't mean to scare you. Scared myself. I'm in earbuds too, big ones. We can hear it. So I mean, like this was all done with MC, so and you can see this, how much the CPU's gone up. This is a very CPU hungry thing, but I want to put some of these algorithms in here. I like this pitch. I want to put that in there. I quite like this. That one, and I quite like this. The stretch is good. So I'm going to put all those in somehow. How I'm going to fit them all into this ridiculous interface, I don't know. But anyway, I've stuck this current version of Nedit on Patreon, so if you want to have a play with it and post some feedback, send me some clips of you messing around with it. It's very, very early stages. I kind of thought maybe I would be able to get this out this year, but the more I think about it, the more I think that's kind of highly unlikely because I just want to add so many things in. But yeah, there's a little sneak preview of my new Max for Live project. I hope you had a nice time. Thanks for tuning in. It was nice to see you. It was nice to read your comments. And yeah, if you want to get your grubby hands on it, sign up for my Patreon and then you can join me in my journey as I develop this, whatever this is. All right. Cheers, folks. See you next time. Bye. Bye.